What is up, everybody? Welcome to the latest episode of the Valenti Vod. I'm your perfect and humble leader, Chris Valenti, and we've got a lot to unpack today. Donald Trump is threatening to send more U.S. troops to Greenland in order to conquer it from Denmark. We've also got a Texas bill that was proposed that will make being transgender a felony. You will be charged with fraud if you live in Texas. And then the Trump administration just slashed $1 billion worth of funding to free school lunch programs that used local farmers to boost the local economies and provide that food. So in layman's terms, the Trump administration took $1 billion worth of food from the mouths of hungry Americans. The Trump administration is pushing to make being transgender a prisonable offense, to throw you in prison, and he's talking about sending our young boys and girls to go fight and die in a new war in Greenland. Isn't that exciting? So we're going to cover all this crazy shit, but before we do, I just want to remind you to like, comment, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. It helps me a lot. It costs you fucking nothing. And then you could also go down below and buy some of this dope-ass Valenti Videos merch. We've also got a link to get a 20% off discount on Ground News, and you can become a member to the channel for $5, which will give you early access to these videos. Plus, we got a future show coming soon that is going to be members only, and I'm more likely to respond to your comments if you're a member. Regardless, let's dive straight in and let's watch Donald Trump threaten to send more troops to Greenland and then realize that he fucking said that on national television right next to the NATO Secretary General and goes, oh, wait, never mind. So let's cover that real quick. You ready? Because I'm not.
And Canada wants to know if they could use them. I said, well, you know, you got to pay for them. Think of it, Canada. We pay for their military. Canada pays very little for their military.
He's talking about icebreakers right now. Like, not like icebreakers like in a conversation, but actual icebreakers, like giant machines that are used up in the Arctic to break the fucking ice and shit. And I think we have one giant icebreaker, and Canada usually uses our icebreaker. And now Trump is like, no, you've got to get your own icebreaker. If you want to use our icebreaker, you've got to become a state. Because if you're a state, then you can use it. If you're another nation, then you've got to pay for it. But regardless.
I think we're going to protect them. But even with the icebreakers, so we're going to order 48, and Canada wants to be part of the deal. I say, you got to get your own icebreakers. I mean, if you're a state, you can be part of the deal, but if you're a separate country, you got to get your own icebreakers.
You got to get your own icebreakers. I'm not giving you my icebreakers. My icebreakers are so good. Dude, this is like fucking me in middle school when I had icebreakers. You remember fucking icebreakers, bro? Them shits were so good.
Russia,
Luigi,
as you know, has about 40 of them. And we have one big icebreaker, but that whole area is becoming very important. And for a lot of reasons, the routes are, very direct to Asia, to Russia, and you have ships all over the place. And we have to have protection. So we're going to have to make a deal on that. And Denmark is not able to do that. Denmark's very far away and really has nothing to do. What happens? A boat landed there 200 years ago or something, and they say they have rights to it. I don't know if that's true. I don't think it is, actually.
So this fucking guy doesn't even know, like, basic history, okay? The Danish own Greenland because, like, 700 years ago, not 200 years ago, the Vikings went there. That's why they own Greenland. And then for the next, like, fucking 700 years, the Kingdom of Denmark, they neglected it, and the people of Greenland, they kind of developed their own identity, right? And then in 2009, there was, like, a referendum that said that they were an autonomous nation that is still owned by the Kingdom of Denmark, but they're operating as their own. They have their own identity. Most of the people in Greenland just want to be Greenland. They don't want to be Danish. They don't want to be American. They want to be Greenlanders. That's what they want. And the fucking people of Greenland have been screaming this for nearly 700 fucking years. Okay? My God. Let's keep watching this stupid bastard.
But we've been dealing with Denmark, we've been dealing with Greenland, and we have to do it. We really need it for national security. I think that's why NATO might have to get involved in a way, because...
you hear that? That's why NATO might have to get involved in a way.
We really need Greenland for national security. It's very important. We have...
Oh, it's very important, despite the fact that the United States has never been invaded once, even though we didn't own it. Now, here's where it gets juicy. Ready? Here's where it gets juicy.
A couple of bases on Greenland already. And we have quite a few soldiers. maybe you'll see more and more soldiers go there. I don't know. What do you think about that, Pete? So, don't answer that, Pete. Don't answer that. But we have bases that we
You see? Let's watch that last part again.
go there. I don't know. What do you think about that, Pete?
Hold on.
The bases have to get involved in a way because we really need Greenland for national security. It's very important. You know, we have a couple of bases on Greenland already, and we have quite a few soldiers, and maybe you'll see more and more soldiers go there. I don't know. What do you think about that, Pete? So, don't answer that, Pete.
So the guy fucking, he makes a quote-unquote joke. This is the President of the United States. The President of the United States doesn't get to make a fucking joke when he's meeting with a NATO Secretary General in the fucking Oval Office talking about a completely different nation, joking about sending more troops. Luigi! So that he can fucking conquer the land illegally. Like, why else do you think this guy sides with Putin all the time? It's because he wants to be Putin. He wants to invade these other fucking nations. Fucking Luigi is going crazy there. I'm gonna play the beginning of this while I go grab her. You're gonna wait. Ready? I'm gonna play the beginning of this and you're just gonna watch it for a second.
Mr. President, Greenland. What is your vision for the potential annexation of Greenland and getting them potentially?
Well, I think it'll happen, and I'm just thinking, I didn't give it much thought before, but I'm sitting with a man that could be very instrumental. You know, Mark, we need that for international security, not just security, international. We have a lot of our favorite players, you know, cruising around the coast, and we have to be careful. And we'll be talking to you. It's a very appropriate, really a very appropriate question.
There's an issue in the high north, so the Arctic. So what you did.
All right, I'm back.
So when it comes to Greenland, yes or not joining the US, I would leave that outside for me this discussion because.
Yeah, because you have no fucking balls and you're just gonna cup Donald Trump's nuts and stroke his shaft because you're a little fucking baby back bitch. That's why. Sorry, I just had to bargain with Luigi. I had to give her a piece of cheese. Regardless, Donald Trump is a fucking warmonger, okay? Let's talk about the looming... Well, we're already in a trade war with Canada, but that's a trade war. I'm not going to call that a war. However, he is serious about annexing Canada. That's why he's hiking up the prices of this trade war. He wants to destroy the Canadian economy so that they are more likely to be willing to be annexed by the United States. So, even so, the Canada, that trade war could turn into a real one. We have a looming war with Mexico because Donald Trump just labeled the cartels as terrorist organizations. Not because they are terrorist organizations, but because if they're a terrorist organization, he does not need Congress's approval to invade Mexico and go to war with them. So that's the only fucking reason. And the thing is, the cartels are awful, terrible, terrible people. But by definition, they're not terrorists. They're not doing this for political change. They're doing this to make money! That's what the fucking Sicarios are doing. They don't give a shit about American politics. They give a shit about making money. They're in the business of making money by selling drugs and people. They're not trying to change the political system of the United States. The only reason he's labeling them as terrorists is so that he can invade Mexico without Congress's approval. Then we've got the Panama Canal, which he keeps on fucking saying that we're going to take over, okay? Then now we've got Greenland, and then of course we've got saying that we're going to take Gaza, and you can't take land without a fucking military there, you stupid bastard. So let's move on. Let's move on from Trump. Okay, so we've covered that. We've covered one of the three. Trump says we're going to send more troops to Greenland. We've already got a bunch of bases. We're taking Greenland no matter fucking what. Now, let's move on to the next crazy shit, which is the Trump administration cutting $1 billion worth of funding for local school, for free school lunch programs that use local farmers to get the food, which boosts the local economy. So yeah, there's the waste, fraud, and abuse that MAGA wants to cut. It's school lunch programs. So let's watch this. You ready for this? Or sorry, not watch this. Let's read a little bit of this. This is from the Associated Press, which I know the fucking MAGA chuds will say that it's more like the Associated Pussy. It's not real. Whatever. Associated Propaganda. Whatever the fuck they want to call it. Let me move this over a little bit. I am a little bit to the side. Logitech web camera. That way. There we go. Okay, let's read this, shall we? So we've got USDA ends program that helped schools serve food from local farmers. Okay. Washington, Associated Press. The U.S. Agriculture Department is ending 2 pandemic-era programs that provided more than $1 billion for schools and food banks to purchase food from local farmers and producers. About $660 million of that went to schools and child care centers to buy food for meals through the Local Foods for Schools program. A separate program provided money to the food banks, okay? So essentially what this means is that the money was going to these schools and child care centers, right? And there was a completely different program that was giving money to the food banks, and the food banks would then give this food to the schools. Well, $1 billion of that whole program is fucked. So now local economies that use this program are going to plummet. Local farmers are not going to have any fucking sales. And worst of all, which is just fucking abhorrent, hungry American children are going to starve. I don't know if you know this, but the leading cause of the lower education rates, the leading cause of kids struggling in schools is hunger. It's not shitty woke DEI teachers. It's not that their parents don't give a shit about them. It's that they're fucking hungry because this apparently best nation on planet Earth can't even provide its own children with free breakfast at school. And this shouldn't surprise you. This shouldn't surprise you when you've got fucking Republican lawmakers saying shit like this, okay?
Look, I mean, that is a valid goal, right, to save money and be more efficient, right? But the bottom line is, right now with this freeze,
this is a Georgia representative. What the fuck is his name? I want to know his goddamn name. What is his name? Georgia rep says kids should work for food. Rich McCormick, that's his fucking name. Let's keep watching. Rich McCormick, if you're watching this, go fuck yourself.
And so my question to you, just to follow up with you, would you support getting rid of, you know, school lunch for vulnerable kids and breakfast and Head Start, for example, and getting rid of...
I'm going to pretend this woman's asking me for a second, okay? I'm just going to pretend she's asking me this question. Ready?
You, just to follow up with you, would you support getting rid of, you know, school lunch for vulnerable kids and breakfast and Head Start, for example, and getting rid of childhood cancer research? Do you support that, and what do you say to your constituents? I want to follow up on that question too, because I didn't hear an answer from you.
So thank you so much for asking that question. In absolutely no universe or reality would I ever support cutting funding for hungry children. I don't think that that should even be a question. There's a reason why we have child labor laws in this nation, and it's that, you know, children, it's been proven that they need to be in schools. That is the best way for our economy to move forward, is if we have higher educated children. The better educated that your population is, the more innovative that they are, and it's nearly impossible for somebody to retain a lesson if they're hungry. And then when it comes to child cancer research, why the fuck would anybody ever support cutting the funding for child cancer research? That is quite literally taking the side of cancer. So thank you for the question. I think it's ridiculous that you asked that. Now, let's watch Rich McCormick's answer.
Sure. So I'm an ER doc, and I know that philanthropy is where you get most of your money for childhood cancer research, for example. And it's not just child. I mean, you look at what the president just proposed, a $500 billion spending bill on AI to produce cancer early detection in the first stage on most body parts. That's his spending bill, where he wants to increase cancer research. So it's
That's a lie, by the way. The $500 billion AI farm that went to, like, what is his name? I forgot the OpenAI guy's CEO. That has nothing to do with early stage cancer research.
It's just about what part of the money it comes out of. When you talk about school lunches, hey, I worked my way through high school. I don't know about you, but I worked since I was, before I was even 13 years old. I was picking berries in the field before we had child labor laws.
You hear that? You hear that? MAGA wants you to be picking berries in the field in order to get fed. And this motherfucker is talking about high school. That's not the people being provided with the food, dumbass. It's fucking middle schoolers and elementary school kids. We're talking about 5-year-olds and 8-year-olds. And you have the fucking audacity in your fucking suit, in your Botox face, to come on live television and say, well, I worked when I was in high school. Well, you shouldn't have. You should have been provided with a school lunch. This is why I hate these pull yourselves up by your bootstrap motherfuckers. There's people out there who don't have boots!
That precluded that. I was a paper boy. And when I was in high school, I worked my entire way through. You're telling me that kids who stay at home, instead of going to work at Burger King, McDonald's during the summer, should stay at home and get their free lunch instead of going to work. I think we need to have a top-down review.
I think you're painting a
Think
lot
about
of
where
these kids
kids
with a
need to
broad
actually
brush.
be.
I would say that's not necessarily a fair assessment of all of the kids. So you would say all the kids in your district who use the free lunch, for example, or breakfast, they're all just sitting at home and not working. Okay, I just want to clarify.
Now that you're actually asking me about my constituents, of course not, because I need them to vote me in so I can fucking rob them!
Because that
But
seems
this
like
gives us
what
a
you were
chance.
trying
No,
to
this gives us a
insinuate.
chance. No, this gives us a chance, though, to see where is the money really being spent. Who can actually go and actually produce their own income? Who can actually go out there and do something that makes them have value and work skills for the future? I mean, how many people got their start in fast food restaurants?
Yeah, man, when was the last time you saw a 5-year-old fucking putting fries in the bag in McDonald's? I mean, when I was a kid, we had fucking children in the coal mines. Why don't we get back to that? Huh? Because those tiny little fucking fingers can get into the crevices that we can't reach. We should really start deploying the kids in the workforce again. I mean, why not? They're workers and all we care about is profit, 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 profit.
When they're kids, versus just giving a blanket rule that gives all kids lunches in high school who are capable of going out and actually getting a job and doing something that makes them have value, thinking about their future instead
What about middle
of thinking
schoolers?
about how they're going
What about elementary
sponge out
schoolers?
the government when they don't need to. We don't give people value. We don't give them the ability to dig themselves out when we penalize them for actually working and actually keep them on welfare. That's what's been the inner city problem for a very long time. We need to have a top-down review so we can get people out of poverty, because you know what? America's very good at creating jobs and giving people worth. And we've been very traditionally good at that, but we're losing our way. And that's when we give people incentives to stay at home and not work. That doesn't work for America.
But a lot of these kids aren't even of like working age.
Thank you.
They're young kids, and as you well know, and also some of the
I get that.
Start, they're like 5 and under.
I get that, he says. I get that. I get
When
that.
you talk about school lunches,
Fuck
hey, I
you. I mean, and it gets even worse. It gets even worse, okay? Watch this. Watch this. Watch this. This is, what, I think this is 2 days ago on Fox News. This is the, the agriculture secretary. And this immediately affected the agriculture sector, because local farmers were the ones providing this food to their local economies so that they can go to the local food bank and be sent to the local schools. It's all about boosting local economies, okay? And yet, this bitch finds a way to blame Biden, trans people, and COVID, and say that because of those things, we gotta get rid of the free school lunch. Just watch.
Hey, there's another thing here right up your alley. USDA cancels $1 billion in local food purchasing for schools and food banks. How do you justify that?
Even Fox News! Even Fox News is like, how do you justify this? Like, dude, MAGA, you're in a cult. You're in a cult. You're in a cult. You're in a cult. Come home. America is waiting for you. You're in a cult!
Well, listen, I think it's really important, and of course the left is doing what the left does.
Telling the truth?
COVID.
Covering the news? Is that the left is doing what the left does? Calling you out on your fucking neo-fascist bullshit? Stealing $1 billion worth of food from hungry fucking children? I gotta turn my mic volume down. I'm screaming. Sorry, guys. I'm screaming. I don't understand how the nation isn't fuming. Republicans or Democrats, how are you advocating to take away free school lunches from children. Not to mention the fucking Republican Party proposed a bill last year to permanently ban free school breakfast and lunches, saying that it like fucks with like their distributors, with the food distributors, because if it's free, their profit margins are fucked. Who do you think wrote that bill? Kellogg's or Nesquik? One of those two motherfuckers, I'd bet. God damn.
Era programs. These were additional funds, and then under Biden, more and more and more and more money. So just yesterday, we're canceling more contracts on food justice for trans people in New York and San Francisco.
There it is. You gotta blame the trans people somehow, despite the fact that they're less than 2% of the fucking population. I love how these people started off by saying, we just care about the kids. You can do whatever you want. It's just the kids, man. We just don't want the kids. We don't want the kids. The kids. And immediately they get power and start making being trans a fucking felony, which we're going to cover in a second, and blaming trans adults for taking away the school lunch. How? The mental gymnastics, the mental loops that you have to be jumping through like fucking Simone Biles. Honestly, I think Simone Biles would be impressed with this shit.
Cisco, obviously that's different than the food programs in the schools, but it is really important. We spend billions and billions and billions of dollars on nutrition programs for lower income and socioeconomically disadvantaged kids.
Good.
But the Biden administration used that to often push money out, taxpayer dollars out, that is not reaching its intended target. So that new program that came in the last few years, again, trying to spend more and more money, we're pulling that back. As we have always...
Oh, so you just don't like the program that uses local food for the local economy to boost, to give to the food banks and to give to the local schools. I'm serious. I think this has to do with some giant food organization, whether it be like, I don't know, Tyson or Purdue or Kellogg's or somebody saying, yeah, well, listen, Donald, bitch boy, because you're my little puppet and you created an oligarchy, you're gonna fucking pull that back, because if it's local farmers providing it, we're not getting the cut. We want the money. You make it a fucking giant food distributor. I don't give a shit. Remember all that shit that we used to give Michelle Obama because she took away like the chocolate chip cookies and the French fries and all that? You want to know what that was an attempt to do? To lower the fucking obesity rate in America. We're the fattest goddamn nation on planet Earth. I know. Friendly fire. Go fuck yourself. But you are going to make people more obese if you force them to eat processed shit from these giant conglomerations because of profit margins. It all goes back to profit margins with these fucking rats.
We said if we are making mistakes, we will own those mistakes and we will reconfigure. But right now...
No, you won't. Just like Elon didn't give the funding back to Ebola. Remember when Elon was like, listen, we accidentally defunded Ebola, but we're going to refund it. He didn't. He never gave the money back to Ebola research to prevent Ebola from coming out of fucking Africa and making its way. He lied. He just lied, okay? The only fucking time that they've done that is when they accidentally fired the people with the nuclear launch codes and then fucking rehired them.
From what we are viewing, that program was non-essential, that it was a new program, and that it was an effort by the left to continue spending taxpayer dollars that were not necessary.
Yeah, it's always the evil left. It's always the evil left. We're just trying to, we are trying to use our tax dollars to actually go into social programs and things that boost our local economies and things that feed our hungry children, instead of your plan, which is to take our tax dollars and send it to Lockheed Martin, Raytheon, and Northrop Grumman so that they can create a bomb that is sent over to Israel to go kill a brown kid named Mahmoud. Yeah, no, great. Fucking yeah, I'll stand on the side of the left there, you fucking laminated-faced bitch. Shout out Bill Burr for that one. Now, let's move on to the final point that we're trying to make here, which is that Texas has proposed a bill that will make being transgender a prisonable offense. You will be charged with fraud, a felony, and go to prison for 2 fucking years. Let's cover that shit together, ladies and gentlemen. I know it's insane, but it ain't fucking fake. This is from The Hill. Texas bill would charge transgender people with fraud. Transgender Texans could be charged with fraud under state legislation filed this month that seeks to make publicly identifying as trans illegal. House Bill 3817, introduced last week by Republican State Representative Tom Oliverson, go fuck yourself with a corkscrew, would add gender identity fraud to the Texas Penal Code, punishable by up to 2 years in jail and a fine of up to $10,000. These people are fascists. They are fascists. There's no other word to describe threatening violence, which is throwing somebody in prison for identifying as transgender is a form of violence. Facts don't care about your fucking feelings. By threatening them with both violence and a fiscal punishment for identifying as trans, that's fascism. I know you stupid MAGA fucks don't know the definitions of basic words, so you like to label people like Kamala Harris the fucking Democratic nominee of the most hyper-capitalist nation on planet Earth. You like to label her as a communist. That's because you stupid bastards don't know what communism is. You also don't know what fascism is. So while we scream bloody murder that these people are fascists and you're on your fucking knees throating their shit defending them, you don't even know what the word means. Let's keep reading. The new offense would make it a state felony for a person to identify their sex at birth incorrectly to an employer or governmental entity, which transgender rights advocates say would prevent trans people from applying for jobs, benefits, or accurate identity documents. Oliverson did not immediately return a request for comment on the bill because he's a fucking coward, which currently has no co-sponsors or scheduled committee hearings. Let's read this last part here. The Houston-era Republican has introduced or co-sponsored more than a dozen bills targeting transgender Texans. I'm willing to bet money that this guy's a fucking chaser and he actually has a hard-on for trans people. It's probably the first thing that he types on fucking Pornhub. A dozen bills targeting transgender Texans since his election to the state legislature in 2017. This session, Oliverson has signed on to proposals that would bar trans women from entering public women's restrooms and make it simpler to sue a person who helps with a minor's social transition. Keyword is the social transition. I know a lot of MAGA just lies and makes you think that children are getting fucking sex changes, but that's illegal. There's been like 4 cases of children under the age of 18 getting a sex change, and in every single case, the doctor was arrested. Why? Because that's illegal. When it comes to giving them gender-affirming care or social transitioning, that is just letting them identify with whatever name they want, or saying, you know, use my pronouns, please, or getting, you know, like puberty blockers, things that are reversible. And facts don't care about your fucking feelings. Let's just keep on reading. Wrestlers and make it simpler to sue a person who helps with a minor's social transition, non-medical steps to align with their gender identity. Texas lawmakers have introduced nearly 170 bills that threaten to roll back LGBTQ rights, according to the Equality Texas State LGBTQ Advocacy Group. And now the final thing that I want to show you is just some mainstream media news coverage, because at least they're actually covering it this time. It's only 1 minute and 35 seconds, all right?
Texas lawmakers are expected to gavel in the next legislative session in Austin on January 10th, but they've already filed hundreds of bills up for consideration.
All day, Marcelino Benito has been digging into the key bills. He's tackled election law, gambling, and abortion.
Now he's looking at what's on the table for transgender rights.
The state of Texas has been a battleground for transgender rights. Last year, Texas legislators passed a law requiring trans students participate on sports teams and use bathrooms aligned with their sex assigned at birth. And the stage is set again for more battles. Already, more than 40 anti-trans bills have been introduced by Texas lawmakers this year alone. House Bill 42 would expand how Texas defines child abuse to include providing gender-affirming health care. A similar bill failed last session.
So if you provide your child with gender-affirming healthcare, which according to all scientists lowers their suicide rates, you are actually abusing your child. Here's the thing, guys. If you refuse to give a child that is suffering with gender dysphoria, if they have gender dysphoria, and then the way that you treat gender dysphoria is by giving them gender-affirming care. All scientists across the nation agree, or across the planet, that if you give that child gender-affirming care, you will lower their suicide rate. So this bill, HB 42, is saying not only do we want to increase a child's suicide rate, but we want to punish the parent, charge them with child abuse if they attempt to lower their child's suicide chances of suicide.
It could land parents and doctors in jail if passed. Then there's House Bill 112. That would criminalize gender-affirming health care.
Oh, so yeah, they're just going to criminalize it. Fantastic. You know that Botox is gender-affirming healthcare? You know that, like, when a man gets, like, I don't know, like, when he takes testosterone or when he makes his muscles look bigger, like all those you see all those rich people in Hollywood and in DC getting, like, jawline surgery, right? That's all considered gender-affirming care legally. So, okay, sure, why don't we ban it all? Then you laminated face fucks will finally look like the lizards you are.
Like testosterone or estrogen doses for children would be illegal, and violations would result in a second-degree felony. And House Bill 631 would ban classroom instruction on gender identity and sexual orientation from
great, just modern book burning.
kindergarten through 5th grade, similar to Florida's so-called Don't Say Gay bill. Remember, Governor Greg Abbott and Attorney General Ken Paxton have called gender-affirming procedures child abuse earlier this year and asked the Department of Family and Protective Services to investigate this type of care among trans youth. Courts have blocked that effort, but it could all be back in play if these bills do make it into law. Back to you.
What a fucking shithole. Could you imagine?
Democrats
living
are
in
not
Texas. Oh, hey, Hassan. Didn't see you there. So yeah, that's what I got for you today, guys. Just, another day living in hell. We have a fascist president, we have a fascist cuck vice president, and we have a foreign-born, unelected billionaire, nearly trillionaire, richest man in the world as our supreme leader, also known as the Fuhrer. At least Bernie Sanders is going on his anti-oligarchy tour. There's a lot of people who are starting to jump ship on the MAGA Titanic because they can see the fucking iceberg. The economy is about to crash the way that it did in 1928, not in 2008. It's going to literally be a Great Depression, not a recession. We're all fucking cooked. But that's why we need to be doing this. That's why I fucking do this. Because I need to do this. We need to yell and scream and get our voices out there because it's not about the people in the comments. I love you in the comments. It's about the people who don't comment. It's about the people who are watching this, who are on the fringe, and they don't know what to believe in. And if you just let them use their own brains by showing you the shit, the fucking shit that the Republican Party is focused on, like going to war with Greenland, making being transgender illegal, taking food away from hungry American kids, that is what the Republican Party is focused on. Not lowering the price of eggs, not lowering the price of gas, not ending the housing crisis, not fixing the economy. They don't give a shit about any of that because while the economy crashes, their fucking billionaire oligarch scumbag pieces of shits are gonna buy it while it's low so that when it boosts back up through the next fucking war, because historically that's how America increases our economy after a depression, is we go to fucking war. As soon as that happens, their wallets are gonna fatten and your children are gonna die, because that's what happens when we go to war. The rich send the young men and women now to go fight and die in some foreign conflict so that their profit margins can escalate. That's the reality, and I'm giving it to you. Don't forget to like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, comment down below, buy some of the merch, use the 20% off discount for Ground News, and become a member for $5. I love you, and I'll see you in tomorrow's episode of Rabbit Hole, where we're doing a deep dive into McCarthyism. Shout out Mahmoud Khalil. Free my boy Mahmoud Khalil until it's spelt fucking backwards. Catch you on the next one.